You try to keep me down, but you fucking can't. You assholes tried to keep me down. Thought I wasn't gonna return to glory. Stand triumphantly on the mountain peak, higher than a falcon beak. With my album leak, it's like a Crowkin Creek. Yo, 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 yo. Ow. What's up, y'all? Much props as always whenever I play that podcast jingle intro song to my mans and them. Ben Tunes and his band Patient Zero. It's been a while since they gave me that. It's probably been a year ago when they gave that to me, so hopefully they're still together. I don't say that doubting that they would be, but I know how it is with bands, and often bands break up. I've been in bands that broke up. I was in a band for a very long time, and alas, we broke up. It's just like any kind of other relationship. You know, you got more than one person involved. Gets difficult. Emotions run rampant. Everybody wants to go a different direction. There's different ways people want to go in their lives. Different things people want to do artistically and how they want to express themselves through their art. Different ways that everybody wants the musical direction to go. Some people might think the genre should go into rock. Some people think it should go into rap. Some people think it should be like a hybrid of folk and maybe like a new, maybe like that, whatever the fuck that kind of music is when you get a massage. What's that kind of music called? Just soothing, relaxing music. It's crazy to me that people, like, you know, if you walk down the Venice Pier, you see people selling those CDs and they're playing them, and there's all kinds of places where you can get those kind of CDs. And if you listen to it, it's wild. Just like some dude, just like, you know, he probably recorded the shit just like I record a podcast. That's exactly what he did. He just like has his little microphone set up on his fucking African woodblock set. And he just hits record and he just goes for like 70 minutes. And there's the album. That's the fucking album, y'all. What the fuck was that? Oh shit, I'm pulling on a cord here. I don't think, yeah, y'all ain't hearing that. That's just my headphone cable that was being wriggled at the time. That's the professional term. My headphone cable was being wriggled. So no more wriggling, no more jiggling, and no more misconfiguring. So yeah. It's been about a month, y'all. About a month since I did my last podcast, I believe. This will be the first Wednesday of the new year. So I'm going to try, y'all. I know that I've said this many times. I know that I'm the boy who cried. I'm going to do a podcast every week. And at this point, it's been way more than 3 times, which I think is how many times the boy who cried wolf. If you're not familiar with the boy who cried wolf, there was a boy. He was some kind of like shepherd. I think he was like the son of a shepherd or the nephew of a shepherd. And just for fun, he ran, you know, he was supposed to look out and make sure that there was no wolves in the distance. And just to be a dick, just for a prank or whatever, you know, he would just come running and say, "Wolf, wolf," and everybody would fucking run in terror. And lo and behold, I guess he would start laughing. I'm making up some of this story, but he would start laughing. And ha ha ha, I fooled you. Look at my good acting. I made you believe that there was a wolf in the distance, or, you know, just omnipresent. Is that even omnipresent is like how God is, but like maybe he was referring to that, but he's saying that the wolf was present nearby and everybody was in imminent danger, and then he did it again. Same thing. Everybody runs. Everybody takes their, however many sheep they can grab under their arm, hoping that the wolf won't rip into the flesh and wool of the sheep. And he does it again. He starts laughing. He thinks he's like a little prankster. And, of course, what happens the third time is when something happens. In all jokes and all parables, he actually does see a wolf, and he comes running into town, or the fucking sheep herding land, whatever it was. You know, you could make a modern version of this, too. You could put it in the city and, you know, a fucking, like, the gang leader is coming or whatever it is. You could make so many versions of The Boy Who Cried Wolf. But the third time he actually did see a wolf. And everybody gets eaten and everybody dies. And I don't know why I started talking about the boy cried wolf. Why did I start talking about that? Oh, man. Yeah, okay. I started talking about that because I'm saying that I'm going to do a podcast every week. And that is because I'm trying to step my game up. I'm generally trying to step my game up in life. The past few months, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna get real honest, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna tell y'all the truth, you know? The past few months, mainly the past like 2.5 or so months before January 2nd. On January 2nd, I guess today's like day 5 or so, I haven't had a cigarette, I haven't had a beer, haven't had a drop of alcohol. You guys that have been listening to this podcast for a while know that I do these little stints where I don't drink and I try to get healthy. For some reason, I don't have the ability to do anything in moderation. It either has to be all or nothing. I don't know why that is, but that's how I am. And I've learned. I did 30 days, then I did 100 days, and now I'm going to try to do an entire year. And honestly, y'all, if this year goes well, I might just have to admit to myself that things go better for me, and I'm a happier person when I don't drink. I know that sounds fucking insane to some of you, and I get it because I absolutely, with all my fucking heart and soul, there's nothing I love more than like going to a barbecue, having some beers, enjoying conversation with your friends, and just having a good time. And I think alcohol is a great assistant in that, and I think can provide many fun situations. But what happens to some people, you get older, and then it becomes really only 1 out of every, I don't know how many times, but like some of you guys out there, like when you drink, you're with people and you're having a good time with your friends. And as for some of us, when we get older, it becomes like, you actually end up drinking a lot more per, like in general and like per drinking session when you're by yourself. And if you live kind of a lonely type of life, like I do for some reason, and I think that one of those reasons is because of this whole alcohol thing, it just gets worse and worse, and it kind of makes you depressed, and it kind of can result in kind of making you miserable to a certain extent. And the past couple months, granted, I have my studio, and I have, like, during the day, I'll come in and work, and it's good. I'm making some music, and I'm making some good music. And, I got times where I go and I do my shit. I hang out with my family. But, like most, pretty much every night, I kind of fucking just, like, live in this little miserable world alone. And I know that sounds emo or whatever, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? The last 2 months, I've just been extremely self-destructive. I just kind of let myself just deteriorate into whatever. Like, all the working out I did was for naught. All the sobriety was for naught. And this is what happens every time I do one of these quitting for a little while things, is I get myself to this point where everything is ridiculous. And it's kind of hard to explain because I'm not one of those alcoholics you hear about and read about that, like, I got to wake up in the morning and drink hand sanitizer and my whole bottle of mouthwash and NyQuil and shit like that. I'm not like one of those people. I don't have to drink in the morning, but like, once I start to let myself drink, I can't. I'm one of those people that when I start, I can't stop. Like, if I get a 6-pack from the store, that might be okay if I had just done one of my little, like, if I just did 100 days not drinking, for a couple weeks I might be able to just drink a 6-pack every night. But then after a while, like, once you get them 6 in you, you can't help but find a way to get more, and then, like, it becomes 12, and then it becomes more than 12, and then that's just not good for your body. It's not good for your soul. It's not good for anything because, eventually it starts cutting into your next day. You're staying up late, getting ridiculously drunk by yourself, and then you wake up late. You don't feel like doing anything because you're hungover, and you also don't feel like getting up because you're depressed. And that's where I was at just now. So I'm just laying it all out there. I'm trying to change this year. The good thing is, if there's something, I don't know, I have this weird, thing inside me where I kind of like to torture myself. And when I say that, what I mean is like, when I go 100 days, like last year I went 100 days, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I fucking worked out every day, and what's the other element? Oh yeah, like I was eating mad healthy, and to a certain extent, that shit is like torture too. Like you're not allowing yourself anything. So for some reason, I have to be all or nothing, and I'm pretty confident that I can do it. Like I'm not like totally tripping. Even though for the last couple of days, I think I definitely had some like withdrawal symptoms, and it was especially worse because I happened to also have like a flu-like cold. I don't think it was the flu, but it was like flu-like symptoms because I was around my brother's kids and they were fucking coughing all over me, and I just got straight up sick, and I think that combined with some like alcohol and cigarette withdrawal. And so for the past since New Year's, basically, I've just been just physically sick. But today I'm feeling a lot better, and still been working. I got my studio. Still managed to get in here. I can still drink here and all that stuff. And like for some reason, like when it comes to making beats and shit, like lack of sobriety doesn't necessarily affect that too much. To be honest with you. I've been doing this shit for years now, so I'm used to it. And basically my resolutions for this year are so fucking numerous. Like take any stereotypical New Year's resolution, whether it be get in shape, eat healthy, work out, stop smoking, stop drinking, all that stuff. Like I'm doing every single one of those things. So it's kind of crazy, but I'm ready for it, man. It's more, I consider this shit like an experiment. Like, I want to see if this shit makes me happy. I want to see if this shit makes me, like, more successful, I guess. Like, makes my career go better. Because I don't know if any of you guys have been paying attention. Like, last year was not really a good year for me. It was an interesting year. It was, on a personal level. It was like a rebuilding year. On a personal level, it was cool. I learned a lot about myself. But as far as my career, I don't think I did one music video. I don't think I put out but maybe one or maybe one song in fucking 365 days. So it was a kind of a shit year for me as far as my career. I mean, I did do the Warped Tour. I did do some like shows and shit, but I don't know. I just wasn't there really, and it was strange. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm trying to see if I can switch my shit, and I'll definitely be putting out music this year just because I've been working so much. But we'll see what happens, man. I'm gonna try to just regain my whole sense of confidence, ambition, and really just like when you get to I think you just get to a point where you just don't really like care about yourself, And I definitely kind of have gotten to that point in my life multiple times. And there's been spurts where I go the other way and I go hard and I'm motivated, I'm dedicated, and that's where I always do the best, and that's where I'm always the most happy. So I'm hoping that this year will be one of those years, and the only way I can do that is to like fucking make some kind of internal change. And hopefully I just become a better, more confident, more happy person, because unfortunately, even though I fucking joke around on this podcast and I talk a lot of shit, and I'm a pleasant dude to be around, and I'm not the kind of dude to, sometimes in my music I do, but I'm not the kind of dude to like usually like just fucking when I get around my friends or get around anybody, I don't tell them about how my life is going internally, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just kind of a fucked up dude sometimes, you know what I'm saying? And the last couple months have been really fucked up for me, and that's probably why I didn't do the podcast a lot. I've just been fucking up. So trying to change that this year, starting with this podcast, and I'm gonna hopefully do it every Wednesday. Wax podcast like the original theme had stated. So yeah, enough of that bullshit. I don't really have much to talk about. I have been making music, like I said. I did write down a couple things. I mean, I should have some. I mean, I've been gone from the podcast for damn near a month. I did do stuff. The whole holiday season happened. Before I get into anything, though, I wanted to give a big up to my boy Jason H. Jason H. Well, I'd say his full name, Jason Hidalgo. Jason Hidalgo runs Kettlebells South Bay. There was a couple when I was healthy last year, before the last couple of months. I was working out with this dude, and it's in Torrance. He owns his own gym now, so congratulations to him, man. To own your own business is a really beautiful thing, and he owns his own gym. And this is where I would go to work out last year, and he's fucking awesome. It's fucking affordable, and it feels really good. Like, if you like to work out and you live in South Bay or you live anywhere, like even Venice, it's close to Venice where I used to live, give him a shout out, man. I don't really have a proper contact. That kind of was a fail. But he's on Yelp, Kettlebells South Bay. It's called Kettlebells South Bay or South Bay Kettlebells. I don't think that there's any other place that's going to pop up. So shout out to him. Follow him on Twitter, on Instagram, jason.hidalgo, Hidalgo. I wanted to give him a shout out because I never did, and he was the man. And the reason that I even started going there because he listened to Wax's podcast. So big ups. All right. The only other thing I have written down, and that and this thing were from like 3 weeks ago. This is kind of a weird transition, but I'll just read it for a little bit anyway. It says, Pitbull didn't sell out. He found himself. That was me and my brother were having a conversation about just like, we have all kinds of conversation about music and like what's going on in the world of music and what used to go on in the world of music, whether it's hip hop or like industry executives or rock and roll or fucking music sales and Spotify and how things are going on and blah, 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 you know? Sorry, I'm sipping coffee and I'm sipping it through one of those, like a to-go cup with a little hole. So it's kind of still hot, so you're going to hear it sound like this. Some good-ass coffee. God damn. So yeah, that conversation we were talking about just selling out. And like what the definition of selling out is, and then we just got. I wish that I could take callers, or I wish that I had like like a Google Hangout or a Ustream type of situation where people could kind of chat in right now, because I'd be interested in getting you guys' opinion on this. He was saying that Pitbull didn't sell out; he found himself. Like if you've ever seen Pitbull's behind the music or just knew of Pitbull when he first kind of started to rap. He was like a battle rapper. He was like he wore jerseys, big. I mean, everybody wore big shit in jerseys back then. But when he first came out, he literally was like doing like street battles, gangster, Miami, kind of like he's called Pitbull because he bite motherfuckers' heads off. And he was known for being really good at it too. And some people would argue that, he should have stayed like that, man. He was Pitbull. What happened, man? He sold out. You know what I mean? But if you think about it, like, there's a lot of people that do the shit that Pitbull used to do. There's a lot of rappers. I mean, Jesus, especially now that battle rap. I know it's a whole different thing now, like with the acapella spoken word type of battle rapping. But yeah, like, how can you really say he's sold out? Because everybody does that. Like, selling out is kind of like doing what everybody else does. And I don't think there's anybody else that does what Pitbull does. Like, granted, there's been rappers that dress in suits. Granted, there's been rappers that kind of like keep it classy and do pop music and, wear jewelry and make dance music. But like, to do what Pitbull does, like, there's really only one dude that does what Pitbull does. And if you ever traveled internationally, you can see that, like, that dude is just, like, when he says he's Mr. International, he's not just saying that shit. Like, he really is, like, probably the biggest rapper in the world. People in the United States might not know that, but I'm pretty sure that Pitbull is the biggest rapper in the world. He definitely has the biggest songs in the world out of any rappers. If you add up like just international shit. Yeah, I don't know why. I didn't really. That just was written down. So ponder that. Did Pitbull sell out? And you can ask that. You can ask that about a lot of different people. Somebody had said. I think that I might have read this in a previous podcast. I did. Like maybe it was the last one, but just to bring it back up. Because I had a conversation with one of my friends who was really like strangely upset by Kendrick's song I. Like strangely upset. Like that fucking shit is so goddamn corny, blah, blah, blah. And I think one of the reasons he said is because he's a big fan and he liked the way that Kendrick used to do his shit on his old album. But first of all, it's one song, first of all. Second of all, it's just that fucking Isley Brothers, Who's That Lady with the dude rapping on it. I don't see what's so sellout about that. If anything, that's some classic hip-hop shit. Taking an Isley Brothers sample and rapping over it, that's fucking Today Was a Good Day. So, yeah, everybody has their own definition of sellout. And even more, God, my brain is moving really weird. What's the word? Subjective. Even more subjective than that is the definition of the word corny. Like the word corny, like, is just so different to everybody else. What you can... God, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm being all jumbly. Let me explain, first of all, that I know through experience of doing these sober things, like the first, like, week or two that you do it, especially if you're, like, goddamn, like, especially if you're really coming off of, like, a super brain-soaked alcohol binge... And I think that let me start from the top here. Like, let's say the last month every day, not only did I fucking drink a ridiculous amount of alcohol, but also, like, I didn't give a fuck about what I was eating either. Like, I was eating mad, like, bullshit food, Philly cheesesteak type shit. You know what I'm saying? I know I hate on Philly cheesesteaks, y'all, but I found a fucking there's a good-ass Philly cheesesteak restaurant in my new neighborhood. I'm not gonna front. That joint is so good. But that being said, it's how come I can't get that shit in Philly? You know what I mean? How come I gotta go to fucking North Hollywood, California to get a decent cheesesteak? Every time I go to Philly to get one, it tastes like goddamn the most bland bullshit I've ever fucking had. Step your game up, Philadelphia. But I've been just eating bullshit food and just everything is like, if you think about what beer is, it's just like I've been consuming tons of like carbs and sugar, and then when I for some reason I always take it all away. Not only do I take alcohol away, not only do I take all the other shit that's in beer away, but I also kind of immediately go on like a low carb, low sugar thing, and I'm trying to get my body tight too. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get back in shape. And I've had this experience. I've had this experience every time I've done this. Like the first week or two. Like I just can't really think or talk straight for a while. Like my brain, like my whole body goes through like this chemical. I feel like it's literally like a chemical thing. Like my body's like, where's all this sugar and carbs and shit? Like it's just confused. And it's almost like you're a girl on her period. You have like little weird mood. You're moody and shit. And you can't string thoughts together. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, sorry if this podcast sounds specifically jumbly. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's weird. It's physical and mental. You just feel strange, But you get over it after a while, and you just gotta stick through it. You know what I mean? You get cravings. It's really fucking weird. Like if you drink a shitload of beer, and maybe this has to do with the food too. But if you think about like the way that I drink beer, if you think about like how much I like, it's like eating a goddamn loaf of bread every night. But like I get cravings for shit like ice cream, every single time. Like the first week, like every night I'm just like, if I can't drink, I want to like go get a milkshake or something like that, which is some shit that I don't do. And I never drink milkshakes or eat ice cream or get a Snickers bar or anything like that. But like get weird cravings. So I think that sugar is a big part of I don't know shit about the human body. I don't know anything about how it works, how we run, but I know that sugar's a big part of it, y'all, and I know because people were diabetic, and that's all about sugar. Am I right? Y'all are just like, this guy's a fucking idiot. Y'all are probably listening to this podcast like, man, you should just stop. Maybe you shouldn't do a podcast every week. Yeah. So I don't know. That's where I'm at right now. You know what I'm saying? They ain't all gonna be perfect, but that's where I'm at. Let me pause this for a second. All right, I'm back. Let's get into some shout outs and some questions. Shout outs for this week. And to let you know, I think as far as my email, which by the way, beatsforwax@gmail.com, beatsforwax@gmail.com if you want to send a podcast email. I caught up a little bit. I'm about a month back. So if you send me an email, it probably takes me about a month to actually read it. Sometimes if I fall off, it takes me about 2 months to read it. I always respond. If you email me, I'll always give you a shout out if I like the question enough, or if I just think it's an interesting question, I'll read it on the podcast. By the way, see, this is another way that I fail, y'all. You know what I didn't do in the I have a thing on my website. If you go to wax.com.com, waxdotcom.com, and click on podcasts, there's a link there. It takes you to amazon.com. And if you go to amazon.com via that link and buy something on there, I actually get like a very, very small percentage of it. I actually don't use it myself. I give it to my brother so he can buy fucking diapers for his kids and stuff like that. I think I've made $5 or some. I don't even know what it is. I don't look at it, but it's something very small I've made off of it. But of course, during the holiday season when it's most busy and people use Amazon most, I did not do my podcast, and even the one I did, I didn't even mention that I fucking have that shit. So I'm not much of a businessman. But maybe you got some Christmas money. Maybe you got a check from your mom, from your grandma, from your Aunt Rachel, from your Uncle Fastfo. Maybe, if you want to use Amazon and fucking buy some shit, maybe you could do it that way. But, sorry for making that noise with my nostrils into the microphone. Dude, I am fucking really, scatterbrained right now. All right. Shout-outs for this week. Devin R. at the University of Toronto. Thanks for that email, man. I appreciate that. Eddie Zilla at McCallbrand.com. You guys should check them out. I think I've mentioned them before. It's MCALBRAND.com. That's Music, Culture, Art, Life is what McCall stands for. Sam C. in Manchester. Shout out to you. Tim, the guitar student from Canada. He just said Canada. So don't think that he said some specific shit like he was he just said Canada, I think people in Canada think that if we see a Canadian place, we're just like, oh, Canada, Like it's all one thing. Like there's no difference between it's only thousands and thousands of miles from Vancouver to Nova Scotia. But, it's to any American, that shit is the same city. Joseph R. Michael from North Haven, Maine. Big Rob, who recommends podcast merch such as Be Safe Out There shirts. I'll think about that, Big Rob. I don't think I deserve to sell those yet. I got to make sure. I think if I can do the podcast every week for the next 3 months, I think maybe I deserve to sell podcast shirts. Ryan G. Kendall from Houston. Good at Studios podcast. Shout out to y'all. You guys are the shit. Grant C. Ed from Chicago, what up? Ed. Brandon from Connecticut. What the fuck? Man, this place is not fucking soundproof, yo. Hold up. So there's dudes shooting they're shooting a music video, like right outside the door of my studio. And it's a Christian one. I gotta be quiet because I don't want to think I'm dissing them. So right here, I put my microphone kind of right by the door and try to capture some behind the scenes of this music video.
So I stopped the stressing, living off a miracle. That's why I'm so spiritual. Jesus Christ playing, that's why it's so lyrical. You know what I represent, homie, I'll be hesitant. Shout out to the homies in the pants, chance messaging. Nipsey Hussle taught me that. Shout out to Young Black, taught me how to rap. Shout out to Hot Rod and Clean Cut in the T. The real Rick Ross is not a rapper, but I am. Hope you understand that I rip the West Coast also. West Coast,
I got enough.
that drove, but I quit that drove and call that coke. Yeah, you know me, I don't mean to provoke anybody just trying to inspire you and reach that better.
Edit it tomorrow for you. And it'll be done tomorrow. Good? Alright. I saw you get a little frustrated, bro. I'm not gonna keep pushing you. Bro, all I got is time. Okay? You probably gotta be somewhere before I do. This is my life. This is all I do. Studio, promotion. Don't get mad about that. The only thing you need to focus on is making sure you know that shit. And if it does, if your rap's dope, the song's fucking dope, dude. Fucking song's dope. I wouldn't change nothing on the rap. It was dope. All I would say is learn your second verse, dude. You know what I mean? If you don't learn your second verse, I can only do so much. So it's like, learn that shit. Tomorrow come in the studio, hit you in the studio, rap in that second verse. This is fine. And tomorrow night, you know what I mean? Hell yeah, dude. Dude, I was just, I'm just trying to look out for people, bro. Hell yeah, dude. We got a dope ass shot, and it's like, we're trying to do the right thing, you know what I mean?
The director kind of sounded like Vince Vaughn. So there you have it. My studio is really not that soundproof, and there's a dude shooting a Christian rap video right outside the door. That's the door that goes out to the outside. Doesn't seem like that'd be a doesn't seem like it'd be the greatest backdrop for a Christian rap video. It's just it looks like a storefront essentially. But hey, props to him, man. I get it, man. You had trouble. You used to rap and you used to gangbang, and now you found God. You found the Bible. I mean, there's a certain sense of jealousy that us heathens have towards like actual faith. Real, unadulterated faith in your fucking flesh, bones, soul, heart, and brain that book is right. And if you do the right thing, you're going to go to this beautiful place, which I've never understood, by the way, because how can it be beautiful if you can't sin there? That doesn't make any sense to me. Or can you sin? I don't know. How can it be heaven if you can't, I don't know. Maybe that just proves that I'm fucked up. But I get it. There's a jealousy that some of us have towards you believers out there. And now you're rapping. I hear in his verses he's talking about how his life has changed and he feels great and he realizes that his life is a blessing. I can't say that I'm not jealous of that. So props to you. I'm gonna have to actually edit some of that and see if you can even fucking hear what they were talking about. Maybe I can. I tried to stick the mic to the door so you could hear the lyrics and hear the guy directing them and shit. Because it's funny because the guy directing them is just a guy that fucking works down the hall. He's kind of a jack of all trades. And it's great that when he's directing them at the end, he's just, hopefully you guys can hear that. I don't know. I'll edit it afterwards. The first podcast I actually have to fucking edit. God damn it. But he's all cussing every other word to the Christian rapper that he's working with. Yeah, the dude down the hall is like a jack of all trades. He's always just shooting stuff and editing stuff, with his little camera and whatnot. But let's get back to the shout-outs and questions. All right. I don't remember which person I stopped at. So I know that I said... Big Rob, who recommended the podcast merch. So I got Ted from Chicago. I think I stopped at Brandon from Connecticut, Ben K, Aaron James at aaronjamesdraws.com, AaronJamesDraws.com. He is a podcast listener and he is an amazing artist. You should go to his website for real. He does comics or cartoons. I don't know exactly which one you would call that. I get those confused, but it's definitely comics. But it's both. It's cartoons and this form of comics. I don't know. Are cartoons the ones that move? Is that what makes it a cartoon? I don't know. But they're fucking tight as shit. And he does these custom guitars. He paints guitars, and it looks amazing. And I'd recommend you take at least a quick look at his website, if not a long extended look at his website. And last but not least, shout out to the homegirl, Randy Elizabeth in Arizona. One of the only people that I will look at Snapchat. Like, I have a Snapchat. I'm not telling y'all what it is if you don't already know, because every dude that sends me Snapchats is the worst. And I think that since I don't respond anyway, that even when I first got one and I actually announced what it was, like all the dudes that would like take a bong hit and say like, dude, that's the fucking Snapchat. I'm kind of good on that, so I'm kind of dumb with Snapchat, except for the couple people I actually look at their shit. I never respond to anybody. Like, what am I going to send you a picture of my balls? Like, I don't do that. All right, let's do some questions. I don't know. Do you want a picture of my balls? Huh? Hey, what's up, Wax? I'm Mike from Switzerland, and I just want to say I love your podcast. For me, it's very funny to listen to you and entertains me on the way to work and every day in my car. Thanks for that, bro. I also use it to, quote-unquote, learn English. It's great for me because it's real English when you know what I mean. I'm reading like all the... He doesn't have perfect English. I like to read people's emails when they don't have perfect English. I also use it to learn English. It's great for me because it's real English when you know what I mean. I'd say I love your podcast, but I really don't know your music yet, except Rosanna, that was a huge summer hit here in Switzerland. So I went to your homepage, and the first thing I saw was the song Feels Good. I found it pretty dope, so I decided to buy your album today. I don't listen yet, but I will do it tomorrow. Hey, man, I appreciate that, Mike. The fact that you learn English through this podcast is fucking amazing to me, first of all. And second of all, I've known some people that English wasn't their first language. Like, even Dumb, Jonathan Park, a.k.a. Dumbfounded, a.k.a. Parker, who will be returning to battling, by the way, if y'all didn't know that. He's going to be battling in February in Toronto, so I'm excited about that. He learned English from, like, television. Like, he would learn from, like, Married with Children and The Simpsons and shit like that, and I think even older TV shows, too. But, there is a thing to, like, like, for us, for Americans, I took Spanish in high school. And my brother took Spanish in high school, but when my brother got to college, he actually majored in Spanish in college and did a semester in Mexico. And he said when he went to Mexico, like, he realized that, like, the Spanish we learn is, like, the bullshit proper Spanish, obviously. And, like, you learn a lot of the cool shit there, and you can learn to be a little bit more of a native speaker. And, I'm sure that I use some type of slang, if not just shit that's not grammatically correct that people use all the time anyway. English is actually a really fucked up language if you think about it. There's a lot of rules that never are followed to the code, you know. You might not realize if you're a native English speaker, but you know, I think I brought it up on the podcast before, but just think about if you know Spanish, like if something is spelled a certain way in Spanish and you look at it, you can pronounce it correctly. Because it is it's pronounced how it's spelled. But if you think about certain things in English, like if you think of the O-U-G-H. O-U-G-H is all you have to think about. There's like 10 different ways to say that. You can say enough. You can say bought. You can say bough, like a bough on a tree. There's way more than that. Ought, fought. There's way now of course I'm not even drought. That's something. Is that the same thing? Did I say drought yet? There's a drought. Enough. Though, even though. Thought. I had a thought. You know, even that's through. Yeah, come through. That's 6 ways right there. Oh, they're all O-U-G-H. Ooh, ow, ooh, ah. Oh, you know what the fuck I'm saying. Other languages don't necessarily do that. So I appreciate it, Mike. I got some questions. Do you have many nicknames? What is your favorite one, and which one do you hate the most? I don't have many nicknames. My name is Michael. People that have known me for a long time call me Mike. I have a dumb nickname that some people in San Diego call me Micah. Some people call me Micah. And then most people call me Wax. That, you know, like my mom doesn't call me that shit. My mom calls me Michael. I used to have a chick that would call me Mikey sometimes girls call me Mikey. You know, because they like to be all pettish. You know, pet namey. You know what I'm saying? I don't have any other nicknames that I can think of. All right, who you think is the best upcoming rapper right now? Upcoming. I guess Kendrick is no longer upcoming. Who was the fucking guy there was somebody I was impressed by recently that I really liked. Is Chance the Rapper still upcoming? He's really good. Who was the person? I just recently listened to somebody who I really liked. Damn it. That's going to piss me off. Who was that? Somebody's really good. There is somebody new who's really good. I don't know, man. I'll just go with Kendrick and say that he's upcoming because, you know, he ain't like he's Jay-Z, you know what I mean? Which rapper is your favorite one all time? I don't really have a favorite rapper of all time. If I had to say that, you know, I might pick a different one every day. If I had to say right now, maybe Devin the Dude. I like Too Short. Like Jay-Z, you know. He's got to be considered the best, right? He's been around the longest without falling, you know. Because a lot of rappers have been around a long time. I mean, the only one who's really had a career that long and still kind of maintained their shit is Snoop, you know. Snoop's actually been around longer than Jay-Z, but if we're talking about like skills as a rapper, you kind of got to go with Jay-Z above Snoop, even though Snoop's like the ultimate and smooth and funky. That's kind of tough. That all depends on taste, but you got to say that Jay-Z's the best of all time, right? I'd go out on a limb at this point and probably have to say if you said who's the best all-around hip-hop artist of all time, I mean, you kind of got to go with Kanye, right? How could you not? Just every album that he makes is amazing. Not only is it amazing, but it's groundbreaking. And then everything he does, everybody a year later is trying to follow him and do what the fuck he did. I like people like that. That's why I like Kendrick. You know, there's a lot of albums that come out now that sound like fucking Kendrick, man. You know? And then Kanye's like that. And then Drake took a little bit from people here and there, but Drake is like that, man. Now, everything that you hear now sounds like a combination of Kendrick, Kanye, and Drake. You know what I mean? That's what you're hearing now on all these albums. All right. Last year I start photographic. Last year I start with photographic. I wonder what you say to my photos. All right, Mike. Well, let's discuss that sentence. Let's discuss that sentence before we get into that. Last year I start with photographic. I wonder what you say to my photos. You started with photography, which is photographic, but photography is what you started with. And I wouldn't say something to your photos. That'd be like as if if I was going to say something to your photos, that would be as if your photo was like a person who was listening, you know? Like if I'm saying something to something, God, I never thought about this before, but if you say something to something, it implies that they're listening, doesn't it? I can say something about your photos. I can say something to your friend about your photos. That's weird. I never thought about that. If you're saying something, I can't say something to the speaker. I mean, I can if I'm crazy, but I can say something about the speaker. You can only say something to something if they're listening. That's weird. I would be so happy when you find time to check it. So check out Mike's photos at flickr.com/photos/space124056301 at n02/. That's the actual thing. I'm actually going to click on it now because now I'm curious. I don't think I actually looked at it. Let's see. I hope it's not like this is a troll and this is a bunch of like little boys. I'm fucking stupid. Oh, you do like landscape and animal shit. You fucking took these pictures, motherfucker? You didn't take these pictures. Damn. I mean, these are beautiful pictures. You do like, this looks like some magazine shit. All right. Well, I said the web address if you want to see He does some landscapes. He does a lot of cars. You like cars? Mikey Photography, I see what you're doing out there. You like the cars out there in Switzerland. Switzerland, by the way, and I do believe I said this on my last podcast. Somebody asked me where I would move if I could move anywhere, and I fucking said Switzerland. I think I said that on my last podcast. If not, it was on somebody else's podcast, or we're just talking to a friend. But, I mean, it's beautiful there. Part of it is because it's very wealthy. You know, you don't most people in Switzerland at least have a solid amount of money. You know, you don't see a lot of homeless people. I don't think you see any homeless people in Switzerland. It's funny, you know, people in America who have never been to Europe, with the exception of a few different cities, London and Paris, and even there, it's nothing like L.A. or Detroit or D.C., like Chicago. Like, there's not, like, you know, most places in Europe, you go to the urban area, and there's just no homeless people. Part of unemployment in Germany, is that you get a fucking apartment. A flat is what they would call it. If you don't got a job, they give you a fucking salary and an apartment. That's how they fucking treat their people. Not Americans. We're not, you know, we think that we're the best. We think that capitalism is right. We think every man for himself. Build yourself up by your bootstraps. Not everybody thinks that way. Some people think help your fellow man, you know? We just fucking step on homeless people. Half of the homeless people out here should be in a mental institution. They literally cannot think for themselves or function in the real world. And in other places, that's what they do. People are taken care of. They're treated in a humane nature. Not here, man. Not here. But yeah, we're just trained to think that it's the best fucking place. And it is for some things, you know, don't get me wrong. People come here all the time. But what you do not see is, that's weird. That said Nazi. That's weird, Nazi. But whatever. What you do not see is a fucking influx of Swiss immigrants right now. Like, oh God, I must live in America. It's the best country. I must flee my impoverished, terrible Swiss nation and go drive a cab in St. Louis. You definitely do not see that from the Swiss. You definitely do not see a bunch of Danish immigrants. You don't really see an influx of Dutch or German or really anywhere in Europe. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck is my point? I don't have any. Okay. When you like it, I would be great to put my name out. zingg.michael on Flickr. I guess that's the easier way to do it, huh? P.S. Sorry for my bad English writing. Keep it up, my man. And be safe out there. Your boy from Switzerland. Peace out. Hey, Mike, man, you made my fucking day with this email, man. You're the goddamn man. Love your photography. Have fun in Switzerland. Hopefully I'll make it back out there if I don't just totally fail in life. I don't know why I'm being so negative on this podcast, but you're the goddamn man, and I appreciate the fucking email. All right, this next one's from Tony Z. Wax, what's up, man? My name is Tony. I'm 20 years old, and I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. Naptown in the place to be. What's up? I used to spend a lot of time in Annapolis. I grew up like 20 minutes from there. My question for the podcast is, do you ever write a song or rap that you think is really good? I wonder if it actually is, or you just think that it is because you wrote it. This is a classic. I've written a few songs that I like a lot, and I think that they could be really good, but it's hard to tell if other people would fuck with it. I hope you take the time to read this, man. Even if you don't read it on the podcast, an email back would make my day. Stay positive. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Maybe we can make a track together one day. Keep it real. Tony Z. This here is the classic. If you've never... if you're a musician, songwriter, producer, whatever, a great thing to watch, look up the Smeezingtons. The Smeezingtons is the production crew. It's a 3-man crew. It's a kid named Ari, a dude named Philip, and Bruno Mars. Philip Lawrence and Bruno Mars. And they do an interview with ASCAP, and it's like a two-part interview. It's a really, really good watch. And I would recommend that to anybody. If you go on YouTube and type the Smeezingtons interview, I gotta imagine it's the first thing that pops up. Anyway, Bruno Mars addresses this issue. Like he says, like, just because you wrote it doesn't mean it's hot. And that's not me. That's not you, Tony, the 20-year-old. That's fucking Paul McCartney. That's fucking Kanye. That's Bruno Mars, whoever it is. You have to know that just because you wrote it doesn't mean it's good. And every musician suffers from that, especially when they first start to make music, when they first start to, especially when they first start to get kind of good at it. They start to think that they can do no wrong. And I've been there. I remember putting excuse me, Jesus. But I remember my old band before we were good. I remember really going out of the way to put our tapes places, put our demo tapes places. And like if I were to listen to that today, I'd just be like appalled, You're always going to get better. And for some reason, like, if you can sound even like an inkling as good as like the music you like, the music that influences you, if you're even somewhere in the realm of sounding like that, or you think it's good, and because you made it, you have a natural affinity towards it. It's just like, when I was in high school, I took 2 years of ceramics. And it's just, my shit wasn't good. I have no fucking hand artistic skills. I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't sculpt, I can't do anything like that. But it's almost like it's the same thing as like a mother thinking that everything her kid does is good. I mean, my mom thought my ceramics was great. But I know that shit wasn't good, but back then, like, you get this inherent joy out of creation. That's something that's built within us. I think that's inherent in human beings, is the desire to create, whether it be creating another human being through sexual intercourse, whether it be creating fire, whether it be creating a hut for us to dwell in, whether it be creating a beautiful piece of music. It doesn't matter. We have a desire to create, and we get joy from it. And there's something that I would feel when I would finish my little pottery that I made in ceramics. I'd be like, yo, this shit is super tight. This thing that could be an ashtray, a vase, or a bong if you put holes in it in the right place. This thing is awesome, And if you put that shit in an art museum, if you submitted it to the Louvre, which is essentially what, if you make your demo tape, if it's like your first little demo and you submit it to fucking Capitol Records, god damn, that's a good ass analogy. That's what that's like. That's like me taking my pottery that I made in high school ceramics class, sending that shit to the Louvre, the highest level of art, and saying, yo, you should display this. You should give me a deal, and you should display this. That's the same shit as when you make your first demo, and you send that shit to Capitol Records. Same goddamn shit. But people look at music differently. Once you make a couple things, you start thinking about the lifestyle. You start thinking about, you just want to live the lifestyle. You want to travel. You want to get the girls. You want to make the money. And you enjoy making music, so how hard could it be? But you got to understand, and once you grow older, the better you get at making music. It's strange. The better you get, you realize that you're actually not that good. You realize that people are better than you, and you realize that you have a lot more to learn. And the best people all know that everything they make is not good. Even the greatest pop songwriters, the greatest, people who do musicals, people who direct movies, write screenplays, they got duds, man. Nobody bats 1,000. But there's just something inherent within us that has an affinity towards the things that we create ourselves. And of course there's something, in certain cases, like I always say, for myself, because that's the example that I know the best. On my last album, I had songs on there that I knew that maybe some people wouldn't like. I knew that maybe some people like a great example is What's Your Vice? If you've ever heard that song, like, I know that some people aren't gonna like fucking bump that like the way they bump fucking trap beat or something like that. But either way, I can be proud of that shit because I know that the fucking shit I was saying on there is tight, and I know that that shit's a representation of how I personally feel. Just the way that like if you paint something and you're representing how angry you are, and when you look at it, you know that it's a representation of that. Whether a fucking critic comes and says like that's a bad painting, like you could just be like, fuck you, it's an awesome painting. That's what I felt. You know what I mean? So that's what's cool. What's cool about music, but like, you know, everybody has the right to their own opinion. That's something you got to learn too if you're gonna be in this shit. Is everybody's gonna trash you and everybody's gonna diss you. And if you get to a point where where people are actually dissing you, that actually probably means you're doing all right. Because usually people just don't give a fuck to give you the time of day. Oh God, I got like I said, yo, I'm still a little sick, so I'm suffering from congestion right now. So yeah, I hope that helps you, Tony. Yeah, there's definitely times where I write songs and raps that I think is good, and wonder if I just like them just because I wrote them. But that was really more like a thing I did back in the day. I feel like now I kind of have a handle on like, you know, what I like of my own shit and what I don't. You know, I write shit that sucks sometimes, and I usually know that it sucks. All right, this one is from Danny. Hey Wax, this is Danny. Quote, the Boeing engineer that hates his job, unquote, from Seattle. I hope Boeing doesn't listen to Wax's podcast. Because they really should. They really should, though. They would learn a lot. I'm a long-time listener of your podcast and very long-time follower of your YouTube channel. Because if Boeing did listen to the podcast, they could be like, all right, search our Seattle office for people named Danny, and then they could bring you guys in. Maybe there's 10. And then some people, there's 10 Daniels. And then 5 of them are like, nobody ever calls me Danny, dude. I'm Dan. And then the other guy's like, dude, I'm Daniel. So the 5 who are occasionally called Danny are still standing there in line, and then they're looking at you like, which one of you motherfuckers listen to Wax's podcast? Which one of you sent that email that you said you hate your job? And it's just going to be obvious by your face that you're the one. All right, anyway, I'm a long-time listener of your podcast and very long-time follower of your YouTube channel. I found out about you when the first YouTube cipher was going around. To put it short, you're my favorite rapper of all time. Wow, man, dude. See, I gotta get more shit out there, man. I got people who think that I'm their favorite rapper of all time. You see how amazing that is, y'all? I'm not trying to fucking gas myself up. I usually try to not read less praise in the thing, but that's pretty amazing, man. Thank you, man. All right. But anyway, to get to the point of this email, I've recently started vaping, which is basically using e-cigarettes. I use 0 milligrams nicotine juice. I have never smoked a cigarette in my entire life, and I don't intend to. My friend let me take a hit from one of his vapes one night, and I found the oral fixation very fulfilling. Easy, Danny. I got my own starter kit after doing a ton of research on the health risks, and found out that at this point in time, there is none. At this point in time. You mean like in the 1920s when they said the same shit about cigarettes? And it's very likely that there won't be any from long-term use. There's a huge subculture in vaping, and after reading and watching a ton of YouTube videos, I've become fascinated with it. I wanted to know, have you ever tried it? I know you're a smoker, and a lot of vapors have been able to quit cigarettes with vaping. Absolutely, that's true. A lot of people did that. There are many benefits to it, including it doesn't fuck up your teeth and gums. You don't smell like cigarettes or make other things smell like cigarettes. It's way cheaper. You can do it indoors since the vapors do not let out carcinogens. Yes, but you still are kind of douchey for doing that because people are annoyed by it. And then all the other health-related stuff like lung cancer and blah, blah. I didn't mean you specifically when I said douchey, Danny. I mean some people. Anyway, you probably don't need me to tell you about health risks and all that since you're a grown man. But maybe listeners of this podcast can try it out if they're looking to quit smoking. I've found that a lot of people haven't even seen an e-cig in person, so that's probably why they stick to the sticks. But vape shops are generally run by very chill people and will let you try it out so you can be on your way to a healthier alternative. Just looking out. Hope you come back to Seattle again. Caught you a few years ago at the Crocodile, and your performance was the opposite of boring. Take care and be safe out there. P.S. If you don't end up reading this email on the podcast, can you at least give me a shout out? It'd mean a lot to me. Yo, Danny, shout out to you. Thanks for the email. And as far as vaping, my take on vaping is the following. If you're putting water vapor in and out of your lungs continuously. I feel like there's got to be some kind of health effect to that. If you do that shit, it's like smoke. Like if you blew smoke onto something, it will like turn yellow after a while. If you blew water vapor onto something, it would mold. So my theory, with no medical evidence whatsoever, is that after 50 years, you're going to get lung mold. And people haven't been vaping for 50 years, so they don't know that yet. Now they're going to listen to this podcast 50 years from now, as everybody will, because once I die, it's going to be a big thing. This episode of this podcast will basically be the Mona Lisa. Yeah, I mean, it says now that there's no long-term shit from it, but straight up in the 1920s and 30s, like, cigarettes were not known. Like, people didn't say that cigarettes had effect. Like, doctors would smoke cigarettes in the operating room and shit. So everybody smoked. But yeah, I will agree that it's got to be better than cigarettes are for you. It's got to be. And I know a lot of people have quit with it, and I got to admit, it's way better. And you can start with nicotine and go down a little bit after a while, then go down a little bit, then have none. And, you can still, like, enjoy it with your alcohol like some people do. And you can do this shit indoors, too. Although sometimes people take that shit too extreme. Like, it's almost like they're trying to prove a point with that shit. Like, at a restaurant. It's like, dude, it's still, like, shit in the fucking sky that's blowing in my face. You know what I mean? It's still got your fucking germs mixed with water vapor in it. Stop blowing into my fucking face just because you think you can. No offense to you, Nanny. I'm talking about the people that do it that way. The people that, like, vape inside like they're proving something. Yeah, that's my take on it, dude. I ain't got no problem with it, but I find like the theory that there will not be any long-term harm from vaping, I question. I got to question that. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the fucking water, like, does a cleanse. Maybe it cleanses your lungs and makes you healthier. What do I know? But, yeah, I've been to one of those stores. I actually remember when they first kind of got popular, I went into one of the stores, and like you said, someone actually was extremely helpful. But, trying to sell you shit. People are helpful when you go into a used car dealership, too. All right, this next one is from Divot. Pronounce Divot, he says. Like divot, like when you fucking have isn't that what they call it in golf? Yeah, divot. You got to replace your divot. If you don't know, like if you're doing a chip shot in golf and you hit a little bit of the ground out as well as the ball, that's called a divot. That empty space in the ground is called a divot, and you got to replace your divot. You can't just leave it a hole. You got to find some other grass and put it on there. Anyway, hey, Big Wax, Marco from Canada, a.k.a. Divot, D-I-V-O-T. Dropping in again for the first time in a little while. As always, I'm loving the podcast and anxiously awaiting the day T-Rex returns. A couple of months ago, I sent you my album, Youth, which I released in July, and was wondering if you had a chance to check it out, even if just briefly. It took me 3 years to make, and it would mean a lot if you would tell your podcast fans about my SoundCloud or Bandcamp. Granted that you actually like the album. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I didn't listen to the whole album. But it seemed that from the tracks that I heard on your Bandcamp, it seemed dope, man. It's divot.bandcamp.com and soundcloud.com/therealdivot, D-I-V-O-T. And I'm glad you're waiting for T-Rex. Hopefully I'll have T-Rex back on the podcast soon. Like I always say, I want to take this shit more seriously, the podcast, blah, blah, blah. You've heard it a million times. I'm not going to fucking do it. But I do want to start getting guests on here more often. All right. Anyways, my question for you this week. What is the worst song you have ever made, in your opinion? And do you think that every project you've made has been progressively better than the last? As an aspiring artist, these questions intrigue me and many others who are working to be where you are. Sorry for the long email, and keep on keeping on. The worst song I've ever made is going to be, I've made songs that, like, the worst song I've ever made is not out there. You know what I mean? It's like on a hard drive somewhere, and I wouldn't have put it out. But the worst song that's I have shit that I have from YouTube that makes me cringe. I can't think of it right now. But there's that much You know, much respect to my boy Prince E. But the song that I did with him, I watched that recently, and even though it brings back good memories and it's a classic, like my verses on there and like the way that I look in the video and the way that I'm moving and shit, like is definitely made me cringe. Like some of my old YouTube videos, like I can't watch now. I'm just like ugh. But I still wouldn't say that's by far not the worst song I've ever made. I don't even think it's a bad song. It's more the way I'm moving around the video and shit that I didn't like. You know what's a worse song than that? And Dumb would agree with me is the first song on the Clockwise album. It's On. I can't stand that song. That might be the worst song that I've ever actually put out. I fucking hate that song. Do I think every project I've done has been progressively better than the last? No, I don't necessarily think that. I think that, you know, I know that I know that a lot of people like to say that that's how you're supposed to do things and shit, but I think that every project I've done, which I need to do a fucking new one, is, I don't know. I think that with music, you can't always label things as better and worse, you know? Like my favorite album I've done is the one that me and my brother did, Grizzly Season, and I've done tons of shit since then. And you know, I think that almost anybody else would argue that any of the most people would argue that all their the last like 3 projects I did were better than that one, but I disagree. I think that shit's better. I think it's more creative. I think it's more interesting. I think it's definitely more of a standout in originality terms. So that was like, you know, I've probably done 5 or 6 projects since then, and that's not including like a lot of different internet shit that I've done too. But that's, I don't know. I just think, you know, the whole apples and oranges thing. You know, like I've done songs that are arguably better than that, and I've become a better songwriter. And I've easily made more marketable shit and shit that's better to the masses than that and all that. But, you know, I think that feeling wise and originality wise and artistically, I still think that's probably the best thing I've done. And I know that people don't agree, you know, but that's because people need familiarity, you know. They need to be familiar with the sounds, and that one's too weird. And you know, people use weird as a cop out, but I don't give a fuck. What am I lying? Who the fuck am I lie about that for? I really think that's the best one. All right, I got one more letter here, and this is kind of a lengthy one. I probably shouldn't even read this whole thing, but it was even longer than this. All right. Shut the fuck up. All right, yo, Wax, what's up, man? It's Sean in Philadelphia. Long time no write. I got fucking gas. My nose is clogged up. Still getting over this sickness. Yeah, this is Sean. I met Sean in Philly at the Warped Tour, and I think I might even met him before that. But he's a photographer, a really good dude, and he said a bunch of praise, and it was awesome, and I appreciate that, man. But when it got down to it, he said this. The first thing I wrote down was hallucinogens. So I've been interested in seriously trying LSD for about 2 years now, but it was just one of those things I never knew who to ask or knew where to begin to think about getting a hold of. That's interesting, man, because when I was younger, I mean, he's still about to say more shit, but I'm just gonna go as a side note. When I was younger, it was like in my high school, it was really easy to get LSD, really easy. But right now, like if I was like, oh, let me do some LSD. Like, I would have no idea who the fuck to ask about that. And I think that's it's just different in different places, depending on where you're at, depending on who you know, depending on what year it is. Like, certain drugs are available and certain drugs aren't. All right. This past June, someone my wife works with came to a party at my place, and her boyfriend was pretty chill. And we were talking for a while. The subject came up. He hooked me up about a week later with 2 tabs. You said this past June. Okay, so that's a long time ago. So then I was like, when am I going to do this and with who? Because I'm not trying to get fucked up or some shit like that. I just want to have an experience I've never had before. I wanted to make sure I did it in the right place, right time, right people. I have a friend I am comfortable with and trust who had done it once or twice before, and he said he was down, and we planned to do it one weekend in late June, but some shit came up and he had to cancel that weekend. So because of the busy summer, I never got around to it. So now I've got these 2 tabs sitting in a Ziploc baggie in my refrigerator, and I have no idea when they're going to be used. I'm trying to figure out if I should just go for it and not be so uptight about the setting and the people. First of all, I feel like, I'm not a fucking scientist, man, but I feel like June is a long time ago. I feel like that should be in your freezer. I don't know. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you fucking Googled, like, how should I keep acid for a long time. I don't know. But I feel like that should probably be in your freezers, considering how old it is. It's definitely, like, over time, you know, I don't know. I also don't know, how you have it. Most of the, some people call tabs, like, there's these little sugar cube things. There's, like, actual little capsules. But most people refer to tabs as blotter paper, the blotter acid, which was the kind that was popular when I was a kid. And, you know, if you let that shit, like, basically, for those you don't know, like, picture just like a piece of paper, and you dip it in acid. You dip it in liquid, and then you take it out, and it dries, and then you fucking take, like, a pizza cutter type of object, and you cut it. It looks like the way that postage stamps are cut, you know, but they're much, much smaller than postage stamps. If you took a postage stamp size hit of acid, you'd be in a different universe. It's probably like the average hit of acid is probably what you can fit, like, I guess postage stamps are different size, but a standard postage stamp is probably the size of, like, 10 hits of acid, something like that. Maybe 8, I don't know. But what was his question? Oh yeah, I was saying it seems to me like if it's sitting in a fridge, I guess if it's in a baggie or something, I don't know. You said a Ziploc. The 2 tabs sitting in a Ziploc baggie in my fridge. That's probably fine. Seems like it should be in the freezer, but maybe the freezer's bad. I don't know. I don't know much about that type of scientific acid keeping. But I did do that shit a pretty good amount of times when I was younger. I did that shit a solid dozen, maybe a baker's dozen times, something like that. And I can give you some advice. I think, especially if you just want to do the shit once and you're not trying to get fucked up and you want to have a cool experience you've never had before, it does matter the setting and it does matter the people. And I can tell you when to do it and when not. What you should not do is, like, just be going out one night and be like, oh, you know, we're going to the bar and hanging out with some friends. I'll do acid. Don't do that. That's a terrible idea. Very bad idea. I wouldn't even recommend hanging out with other people, like people you know especially, but I wouldn't recommend being around other people that aren't also on acid because it's weird. You look at them weird and they're not with you, and if they find out you're tripping, they start fucking with you, you start to hate them. They think it's funny, and you know, if you were them, you'd think it's funny too, but the person tripping doesn't think it's funny at all. If you have 2 hits, it should be you and your friend. Probably would be better to have at least 3 people. Probably would be better to have 3 people, but I'd recommend something in nature, man. I'd recommend doing it during the daytime. Start early, you know, so by the time it gets weird and nighttime-ish, it's settled down a little bit. I would recommend, I don't know if you're, because coming down from acid lasts a long time, you know, and when coming down kind of just feels weird. And if you're, you know, if you're older and if you're a drinker, I'd recommend, like, you know, 8 to 10 hours after when you start to feel like you're coming down, I'd recommend some alcohol to not overdo it, just a little bit to soothe that feeling of coming down. And don't go bowling. I've done that. It sucked. Don't go to a fucking amusement park. Everybody thinks going to an amusement park when you're on acid is going to be cool. It's not. Like, just because, like, you think, like, oh, it's just a bunch of colors and rides and blah, blah, that shit freaks you out. You don't want to be freaked out. The best shit you can do is, like, a safe environment that's in nature. Or sometimes a cool thing to do is just be at somebody's crib. Just be at somebody's crib with just the people that are in it, and make sure you have nothing else to do that day. Don't have, like, other shit going on. You know what I mean? Don't be like, oh, well, at 5 I gotta go do this for an hour, but I'll be cool. I'll just be tripping doing that, And then I just do that for a little while. You know, oh, I got to go eat with my family real quick. I'll just go do that and then I'll be out. Like, don't do some shit like that. Like, it's a very powerful drug. You gotta have the whole day, and you should have the whole day planned out so you don't have to do anything. That's my advice about doing that. And that was only the first half of Sean's email. Well, the second half is kind of like more some stuff that is all right, fuck it. I think this is okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, this, keep in mind, Sean is from Philadelphia, and the Trocadero is like a well-known venue in Philadelphia. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was what was your opinion on playing the Trocadero main stage compared to playing the Troc balcony? I played the balcony with my old band a few times in the past, and it was cool, but I don't think it was one of my favorite places we played. Although like 10 years ago we played there, and now I'm thinking about it. I remember it was one of the tightest we ever played, so what the fuck do I know? Maybe I just remember lugging all the gear up the staircase, which doesn't seem to end. This past January, my friend recruited me to play drums for a show his band was playing there on the main stage. I don't play with a band very often anymore, maybe once a year, and I didn't know any of the songs, and we only had like 4 practice sessions to make shit work. I was nervous as fuck, but this was one of those opportunities I did not want to pass up. I've been going to shows of the Troc since I was in junior high, and playing on the main stage, even though I know that's not that big of a deal, was a huge deal to me. We were the closing band, so I had many hours to chill, have the proper amount of beers to relax, but not fuck up any songs. Ah, well done. And we pretty much killed it, I won't lie. It was one of the greatest feelings of my entire life. Just pure elation. I also felt like the fucking man when I got off stage and saw my wife standing there backstage grinning at me like I was a fucking hero. That's awesome. Maybe I forgot what it's like to play a show and kick ass and know that you did well and that people liked it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm a fucking braggy asshole, apparently. Ha ha ha. How do you like the main stage? You think on a smaller tour you'll play the balcony again or no? Did you take a shit in the toilet in the room at the end of the hall backstage at the Troc? I don't know if I took a shit there, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I did, and everyone in the room could hear everything, even with the other band playing. All right, man, I'm not going to bother asking you about anything else. I was going to because this is already turning into a novel. Just want to say what's up. Well, what's up, man? Let's... Just for people that aren't familiar with the Trocadero in Philly, you might have a venue around you. It's like almost, I know through experience that almost all cities have a venue that has like a big ass main stage where maybe 1,500 people. That's probably the Trocadero capacity is probably about, the main room is probably 1,500 people. But then also they have this balcony section which is probably 250, and 250 is fucking packed. But I played the balcony like 4 times, and the last 3 times, the first time was not, but I think the last 3 times I played there, it was sold out, and then this last time on Wintervention that we actually ended up doing the main stage, and it was really awesome too. But if you listen to an old podcast, I don't know, I actually don't even know if it's a podcast, maybe it was an interview, but several times in multiple interviews, I've been asked where is my favorite place to play. And I have said the Trocadero balcony. The Trocadero balcony, there's an intimacy at that venue that really is unmatched by any other venue I've ever played at, with the possible exception of like, you know, a coffee shop like Cafe Muse where I used to do the Wax and Ajax show in LA. But like, there's this, and it has to do with the people in Philly too. The people in Philly are awesome. Like there's certain the way that they are there, and the way that people would behave at those shows, and like the way that people would call stuff out but not annoyingly. Like there's like, you know, there's certain people that heckle and yell and they're drunk, and they really kind of make the show about them and like come talk to me type of shit, and they're the most annoying the most annoying crowd people there are. But people in Philly are different, at least at these shows. Like it was like it was very participatory. You know, I've said it on many occasions that the Trocadero balcony is my favorite place to play. I had shows there that were just amazing. Shows there where they were, and it's fucked up too because it's a small place. So to get on the stage, you have to walk through the crowd, and to get off the stage, like, you know, you'd be like, thanks y'all, that was my last song. And then to get off the stage, you have to walk through the crowd. And I had a couple shows there where they're like, nah, like they wouldn't part. Like I've already done like 2 encores and they wouldn't fucking part. And there's no backstage, there's no nothing. There's not even closet back there. Like you have to just it's kind of like they determined when the show stops, and that shit was kind of amazing. And yeah, I've always said that was my favorite place to play. We did the main stage this time and it was great. But, you know, I like the small shows, man. You know, there's like the biggest show I ever did was Donau Inselfest. I have a picture of that shit somewhere on my Instagram, but it's fucking ridiculous. It was 80,000 people. It was in Vienna, Austria. Like literally, like we were the people on the stage, and there's fucking 80,000 people in there. Like that is amazing, but like, but the other like that's amazing, and then like a packed room with 200 or 300 people was amazing. Shit, even 100 people. But like once you get to like 1,000 size room, it kind of loses a little bit of intimacy. The stage is all high. You can't really touch people, you know, like you find ways to do it. Like sometimes, you know, if you get a wireless mic and you kind of run out in the crowd and stuff like that. Watsky is really good at making a big venue seem small, you know, but yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine for huge artists who play stadiums all their lives, like if they're like true performers that love it, they probably be fucking super excited to do like a small club. You know, that's why they do little pop-ins and little last minute things at the Viper Room and shit like that. But yeah, that's what I got to say about that. Congratulations on you playing there, by the way. And you're like, yeah, even though it's not that big of a deal, it was a huge deal to me. You had gone there as a kid watching shows, and you were having an opportunity to play there. Like, it is a big deal, man. It is. If it's a huge deal to you, then it is a big deal, you know? Like, who gives a fuck if it's a big deal to somebody else, you know? If everybody thought that way, nothing would be a big deal. You know, that shit ain't... There's a lot of people that playing at the Troc main stage isn't a big deal. It's a very arbitrary goal. Musicians have very arbitrary goals. Like, I've seen people celebrate, like, you know, like even me, like going from the Troc to the balcony, like that was a big step. Like, that was something to celebrate. And it's like... It's very arbitrary. And then you, like, the day, like, if you come to a city the third time and play the same venue and then it's sold out, like, you celebrate. And it's like, you know, some people don't give a fuck about that, you know? It's, you know, just like I don't care about the goal, like, you know, if some computer programmer just figured out another computer language, he celebrates that. So I don't care about that goal. It's not my goal. It's not a big deal to me. Huge deal to him, you know? So if it was good for you, then good for you. And I think that's about all I got. I'm about to do a little bit of editing on that middle section of this podcast. I actually got to do some editing today. See how I'm doing right now? I'm taking the extra steps. I'm doing the extra work. I'm hustling extra hard. I'm a true boss. I'm a true G. I'm a boss. I'm a G. And that's what I'm doing. And okay. Be safe out there.